A lot of people have told me that it's hard to visualize how to make kefir. So tonight I'm going to show you how it's done, and it's really quite simple. This is a completed jar of kefir, and deep down in here are the kefir grains, which I'll show you in a minute. And this has been fermenting here in the winter on my countertop for about a day and a half. And you want to let it ferment until it gets solid enough that it's quite jiggly. It looks like pudding or sour cream, you can see from there. So this kefir is done, and I'm going to pour it into a strainer that is not metal. You don't want to use a metal strainer because kefir will leach metals out from the strainer, so you want to use plastic or ceramic or some other type of a strainer. So you just simply pour the kefir out of your fermenting jar. Scrape it all out because these grains can get in the middle of the kefir or on the very bottom. They kind of just end up all over the place. Oops, still some more down there. And then you take this spoon, wooden spoon again, nothing metal, and you kind of swirl it around on the bottom of the strainer, and that helps the kefir come through. Because it is so thick, you could see you'd be here all day if you weren't helping it with a wooden spoon. And it's going down pretty quickly until you get near the bottom, and you can see here some of the grains are starting to show themselves. Again, they are suspended throughout the jar that you start with. As the kefir ferments, they become suspended, so you just got to find your way through. So here is the grains. This is a lot of kefir grains, so tonight I'm going to prepare some of these to share with some friends. But they grow. They are little living organisms, and they're kind of rubbery in texture. You can't really break them apart. Sometimes in the kefir that you're fermenting, it may separate out into a thin, runny, chalky substance and a heavy cheese on top. The grains are again throughout the mixture, but you need to get them out, and you need to know what they feel like, because if you get that kind of separation where it's like cheese on top, you've got to find the grains with your hand. So don't worry, because they don't mash around or anything. You definitely know when you have them. So what I do next is now I take my grains and I would start my next batch of kefir. Normally I'd pour all the grains in, but again, because I have extras, I'm going to share with a friend. So I'm going to make 2 jars and pass this smaller jar on. So here's the jar I'm going to use next. Here are my grains in the very bottom. I'm going to use raw, full-fat milk in the kefir grains. This milk comes out of South Carolina. Just shake it up because the cream gets to the top of the milk jar. And you just pour the milk in. And then place something on top of the jar because you don't want anything falling in, or you could cause the kefir to ferment improperly. Maybe end up with that cheesy stuff on top. And I use a cheesecloth to cover the jar, and I'll just set it over here for a day and a half and come back tomorrow and start the whole process again. So now I have this bowl of kefir that I did strain, and I'm eventually going to put this in a smoothie tomorrow for breakfast for my family. And I take a funnel. Kefir doesn't pour so easily back into a jar, so I'll take a funnel, plastic funnel, and just pour it right back in the jar. Wipe my jar off, put a lid on it, and put it in the refrigerator until it's ready to use. If you're doing kefir for the first time, you've not made it yourself, know that it will smell pretty awful. Doesn't mean it's bad, it means it's just the way it's supposed to be. which is why my family puts it in a smoothie with a lot of honey. Once you get the honey and the fruit in there and some coconut oil and some other good stuff, it tastes really good. But kefir straight or kefir and fruit is just a really hard thing to take. So embrace your kefir and enjoy.